I'd like to tell you the parable of the brown M&M. In ancient days, a group of musicians traveled the land far and wide. Their performances delighted and amazed. They were bigger and more complex than anything people had seen before. The name of the group was Van Halen. And Van Halen put on a show, like a really big show. To support this show, they needed all kinds of technical infrastructure. All kinds of things needed to be in place. They had this big long contract full of very carefully specified requirements. Article 148, there will be 15 amperage voltage sockets at 20-foot spaces, evenly, providing 19 amperes, and so on and so forth. In amongst these technical requirements was a section on munchies, the food that they expected to be in their dressing room before they went on stage. One of the clauses in the munchies section said, M&Ms, warning, absolutely no brown ones. This was a binding contract, so if they went into their dressing room and found some brown M&Ms, they were legally allowed to not do the show and still get paid. And occasionally, they actually did this. What a bunch of jerks, right? But there was a very good reason for the brown M&M clause. They had constant problems getting people to actually meet the requirements for them to put on this big, complex technical show. There were many, many technical errors, whether it was that the girders couldn't support the weight, or the flooring would sink in, or the doors weren't big enough to move the gear through. So when I would walk backstage, if I saw a brown M&M in that bowl, well, line check the entire production. Guaranteed you're going to arrive at a technical error. They didn't read the contract. Guaranteed you run into a problem. Sometimes it would threaten to just destroy the whole show. Something like literally life-threatening. One time in Pueblo, Colorado, they were supposed to play at a university, and the university hadn't read the contract line by line. I came backstage. I found some brown M&Ms. I went into full Shakespearean, "What is this before me?" You know, the full skull in one hand. And promptly trashed the dressing room. Dumped the buffet, kicked a hole in the door, $12,000 worth of fun. The people at the school hadn't carefully read the contract, and they really should have, because the production was so heavy it ruined their floor, did $80,000 worth of damage to their brand new gymnasium floor because it was all just too heavy. So the point of this is, you're extremely likely to run into brown M&M clauses in your life. If you're filling out a job application or a grant application or doing assignments in university, you're extremely likely to come up against kind of naturally occurring brown M&M clauses. They're not as intentional as Van Halen's, but they're out there all the time. Little things that the person reading your work will use as a cheap and easy test to see whether you actually looked at the instructions carefully and tried your best to follow them line by line. Oh, you didn't use the right file format, or you didn't name the file properly, or you didn't do citations the way you were supposed to do them. This can be conscious or unconscious, intentional or unintentional, but I guarantee there's going to be a lot of these in your life if you're doing a kind of professional career. So, no doubt, if you're doing an assignment in university, you read the instructions at least once, maybe you skimmed them, but what I'd recommend is going back to those instructions over and over again as you're doing the assignment to make sure that you're getting all those little details right. I know this sounds like extra work, but I promise you this is a very effective way to spend your time. Working with the details of the instructions that you were given is much more likely to result in a well-crafted assignment than just going ahead and plowing on with your somewhat vague memory maybe of what the instructions said. And that's what's going to help you pass the brown M&M test. There won't be anything sort of sticking out, obviously showing the person that you didn't pay attention to the instructions. And you get past that first cut, right? That first quick and cheap test of competence and care. Then the rest of your work still has to stand, but you're spending your time very, very wisely if you work with the instructions in a detailed way. So that's the moral of the brown M&M story.